So some of these are like where those happened. There used to be another hole here somewhere. So they would come in here and they would try to escape. Up until recently, they thought nobody actually was successful escaping, but now we're starting to find stories of people who were actually able to make it out.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, I like the way they got it set up in here now. Just remember, don't use that toilet.
Do not
At
use.
least one person there.
Probably. It's probably why they put that there.
Pretty neat. I like it.
I'm guessing they're using this for storage. This used to be open, but I think they need to do some repairs on the store. But this would have been the trustees' room. So basically, when you were in the jail, if you were seen as a model, if you were seen as a model prisoner, they would give you better rooms. So there's like just a whole nice room over there, and you'd be allowed to come out and like maybe help the wife cook or just help with certain duties around the jail. So if you prove to be a good jail person or whatever, you just get more privileges, and it would make your life a lot easier. So a lot of the prisoners who stay here, you'd want to become a trustee because you get more freedom, it's more comfortable, more private. I definitely trying to do that, so.
Yeah.
And this is my boyfriend back here. He's always so quiet.
Oh,
Officer Steve.
that's me, huh?
Officer Steve. And this up here is by far my favorite. And I also think it's the most haunted location in the jail.
I feel like I'll fall to the floor.
No, you won't. So this is the very top of the cells. So they would like, to flush out the toilets and stuff, they would pour water down in there and it would just flush everything out. So you can imagine staying on that first cell, the first floor, it probably smelled pretty bad.
Like
I
the
really
bottom
love,
floor?
the big wrench in there. That's like the coolest thing ever.
That's crazy. It looks like
Yeah.
stuff they just kind of found in there.
Yeah, probably. Just, I mean, and that's the thing. You find stuff in walls and everything else in here. So that there's, when we go down into the kitchen, you'll see they have like a whole thing where there was just like a bunch of stuff that they randomly found within the walls and whatever. It's just weird where people.
Yeah, like you know, because you try to like tuck something somewhere like later to maybe where you can use it or contraband they don't want you to have and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So do you guys watch like Ghost Adventures?
Oh yeah, they were here.
Do you remember the episode here? Do you remember when they talked about it was Byron? And he's like, I was so scared, and he said a book got thrown at him.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't actually a book. We don't know what it was, but it happened in this room. And I was here that night, and I was the one filming, so the footage is actually my footage.
Really?
But they went in there, and it was Byron and then our other friend Jeremy, and they're sitting there. Something gets thrown at him, and it's so loud. And I analyzed that video over and over and over again. I cannot see what was actually thrown.
Wow.
Yeah, to this day I haven't been able to figure it out. That same night I also had, oh, maybe it wasn't that night, I think it might have been another investigation, but I had a GoPro set up in there, and it was actually my first night here ever. I had never been here before. There was a camera in there, and when I was reviewing evidence, I got an EVP that said I've never seen her here before. My first time here, and I was the only female, and it was in this room. So they were clearly talking about me, and it's like 3 a.m, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like that's the like most active time.
Yeah.
That or
Well,
midnight.
I mean, it frightened me to hear that. Like, oh my gosh, like I was standing right here, and there's someone I can't see talking about me right there. The other EVP that I got that night said, "Tell those kids it's time to come home."
Woo.
I believe there's a couple of kids that are around here. One of them's name is Zach. The girl, I think they said like Violet or Valerie or something. Like, haven't quite figured it out yet, I don't think. What the girl's name is.
Hey, like I was hearing it.
I actually was, but I didn't get scared this time.
You're like, no, I just got like good
I
hair.
spooked her earlier.
I'm not gonna hear it.
I was doing a solo investigation here, so it was just me. I was the only person in the building. I had the live feed running. I came up here. Everybody watched me shut that door. Then I walked around to the back, and I sat there for a little bit. And on the live feed, everybody could hear. I was like, I keep hearing noise up there. I keep hearing noise. So I walked around, and the door was open. So it was kind of cool that was actually the night my sister was like, okay, I believe in the paranormal now, because she saw with her own eyes, like, I can't manipulate that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. So.
I mean, I wouldn't like to spend the night here and just be locked in a room. I wouldn't imagine what that would be like. Because you can't get out, it's small, and I'd probably end up in solitary confinement.
By yourself?
Yeah, because I'm an idiot.
So that picture that I showed you downstairs was actually captured in this room. When I first started coming here, there was a sign, there was a piece of plywood out front with a phone number on it, and when you wanted to come here, you had to call that number and hope that they got back to you. And so basically it was like all this was storage. It was not like this at all. They had just started doing stuff to it. And so there was just boxes and chairs and stuff up here. Now, if you've ever, did you watch America's Most Terrifying Places, where they did the squirrel cage jail? I was on that episode.
I mean, I've probably seen it because, like, I've watched, like, a bunch of, like, that's how I know, like, little snippets of stuff. I'm like, oh, man, I watched, like, so much of this. And it's pretty awesome just to be in here because, in the dark, too. That's why I got the flashlight on. Otherwise, you just
I'm
be
so used to walking around in the dark, it doesn't even fit. I
know, it'd
don't
be a lot
even
more
do it
fun if
anymore.
you turn that down.
I mean, I can.
So,
I can't see nothing.
on the episode of America's Most Terrifying Places, they actually filmed it and said that it happened down in the cells, what happened to me, but it actually happened in this room. They just wanted to change the location of the jail for aesthetics, but that's television, it's what they do. So I was actually standing probably right about where you were, and it was my second investigation ever. And I was so irritated because, like, nothing was happening, and I was like, I wanted this to be real so bad, and now I just don't think it is. And so I'm standing there just going, you know what, come on, scare me. Like, just prove to me that you're here, whatever. Like, just do something drastic. Like, show me you're here. Just kind of calling it out and, like, just frustrated.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like, the ambiance is kind of nuts. I mean, without the light, I could just imagine how dark it would be in the night in here and stuff.
So I was standing there.
Like, what do they use?
It felt like a big man walked up behind a huge guy and just started, he put his body against me, and so I was going forward, but I couldn't figure out why I was going forward, but I could feel like someone pushing me forward.
Yeah.
And I'm looking like, who's behind me and why can't I stop walking? And then I realized it's why I asked it to do it. I found out later that day that one of the wardens was like 7 feet tall, huge guy.
Wow.
And I'm like, had to have been him. And then I captured the photo of the man's face. But somebody also took a photo from outside and captured the same face in that window. So I'm pretty sure it's one of the wardens that was here. He turns on the music box frequently. I've been sitting in this chair, and where this used to sit, when you would walk by, it would rattle and hit the wall. And so one time I was just sitting here, and I heard footsteps like someone ran this way, and the whole cabinet just shook. So I'm like, somebody just like walked right by me.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really amazing.
Dude,
I've had so much activity happen up in this area.
It's like, you can tell this is kind of cool. Like, wow. Like this is original windows from like back in the day. Like I
Pretty much, yes. Everything in here is pretty much original. Some of the stuff I think was redone a little bit when, certain families were living up here and whatever.
Wow.
But for the most part, it's pretty much stayed the same. And it's a steel building. It's not like it's really easy to alter.
Yeah.
Can you picture what
A
it
jail
looked
is a
like
jail.
outside when it was built?
Well, that's what I'm thinking because it would have been pitch dark. Like there would have been trees. I'm pretty sure. Or who knows? Like if this
it would have been.
been.
It would not. It definitely would not have been very city-like
Would
as
have
been
so.
Mostly railroad.
Yeah, dang.
So.
Ooh. Awesome. I like
Yeah,
it.
this is, when I do solos, I usually just come up here and sit. I have gotten activity downstairs, but I really just feel drawn up to this area, so I just always come up here. I can say that it's, people expect when it comes to paranormal, a lot of times I've had people get mad and leave my tours because books aren't flying off shelves. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
Oh no, like
They
this
don't
is
act on command. A lot of times you're just sitting there staring.
like he said, you gotta shut the light off to get more of the experience. I mean, to see some of the spots and just to walk around.
Activity happens, I think, all the time. But the difference between doing it at night and in the dark as opposed during the day
Oh yeah.
is in the dark, your senses are, you can hear better and you're thinking, you're paying more attention. Your senses really turn.
Yeah, because you gotta imagine it would have been dead silent.
When all the hair on your arms just stand straight up.
Yeah. But the thing too is that when you do it at night, the world is quieter outside.
Yeah, like
when we're up here during
like
the day,
that.
it's cars going by and.
well, because then you gotta like think about how it was back in the day. Because this is where the jail setting was and stuff. There would have been dead quiet. It would have been like you would have heard somebody fart from like all the way downstairs.
Probably.
It's like damn.
Well, and I mean,
Too.
there was probably still people up all night long and.
Yeah, like
whatever,
talking and blah blah blah.
I mean, I would not want to live up here with my family with convicts all living below me.
Really?
Well, no, because like who knows? Somebody escapes. You're like, what are you doing up here? Like, that'd be spooky as hell. And you see the whole.
I mean, obviously you had your serial killers and your, crazy people too.
Well, because you wouldn't know the crime until it was too late, like that bird dude or whatever.
Yeah, because he was in here for like a minor domestic charge, like domestic violence charge. And so he was only in here for a few days and then let go. And the whole time he was axing people to death. But nobody knew.
You got to think back then they didn't know the difference between crazy and.
They still don't.
I mean, like.
You're awesome. I like it.
They'd lock
It's just another.
a murderer up with someone who just had to.
Can we walk in here? Yes. Wow. I mean, I can't see anything, but still, like, okay, here we go. Yeah. Spooky. Is there somebody under the bed or anything? I'm gonna look.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna take a look. Take a little look. That'd be nuts, dude. Spooky. Like, how would you sleep up here?
I mean, I can sleep up here.
You probably have, No, I mean,
I
I'm
actually haven't slept up here, because I usually leave, around 1 or 2 in the morning, because I live close by here. But the tours that I'll be doing this weekend, I'll be staying in the locations, and then it's the Chicago Alton Hotel, which nobody has spent the night in there since the 1930s, and that's what I'll be doing Halloween night on a live feed.
That does sound spooky.
The house up on Park Avenue. I mean, it's an old Gothic Victorian. You ever seen it?
I may have driven by it, but I don't know.
It looks.
Is it like a big black house?
It looks like an Adams Family house.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Like, it's like clear in the back. Tully house.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I've never really looked into it.
That house is awesome. I'd love to go inside of it.
Well, like, I wish they do like any spooky tours of the Dodge House or anything, or.
The Dodge House has been kind of one of those things where we've tried to get in, but they've been very resistant. Some of these old places, they like to stay away from the paranormal. They feel like it dishonors the family or something not live there. And the General Dodge House, we've slowly been, I think, trying to break them down, but still really haven't been able to. So it is what it is.
Right?
And there's nobody under there.
I know.
So.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is actually one of the few locations that I go to that doesn't have some crazy secret door somewhere.
I mean, because I could just imagine, like, you're chilling, trying to talk, and all of a sudden, as soon as you grab your foot, I'd scream. Pretty neat.
People jumping out at me always.
So, like, was this, like, another, like, one of the woman's warden's room or something?
This would have just been one of the bedrooms up here. So they had, like, the warden's office, and then they had their bedroom. I mean, this was just their apartment. So they would just live up here, just like a normal house. Wow.
I mean, not to be, like, I wonder if they did any scandalous stuff that nobody knows about. Ooh.
From what I understand, the one warden, the last warden that was here was a very straight edge guy. And most of them were. There weren't really too many, like, backwards sheriffs and stuff like that, so.
Right.
They were usually pretty good about stuff.
Wow. That's kind of neat. I like it. I'm just like,
I actually just was in getting for 4th of July. They let me go out on all the fields at night. I was out on like the wheat fields and stuff, like the main battlefields till like 4 or 5 in the morning. Yeah, then I was at the Hurridge Inn, and I had a video go viral because they have under the staircase, there's floorboards that come out, and then you crawl in there and it leads into the Underground Railroad. That inn also had a secret door. You push the fireplace open and there was tunnels behind the fireplace. That place was awesome. Gettysburg is shit.
yeah, like,
Have you heard anything about the tunnels that are underground around here?
yeah.
I think I've heard a little bit about it, but I've never really looked into it.
Like they're under the old AL school or whatever.
Like, I heard it was like under this jail to the like Dodge House and some other things.
It's like
I
that.
don't think they've ever talked about tunnels being under here.
They got the podcast on the Historical Society that actually
Yeah.
made a story.
And it doesn't talk about
And they talk about how you could go through the lockers and get down into the tunnels, and that's where all the kids used to go smoke.
That's probably what my ass would have been doing.
But it was in the one that burned down. That just parking lot. But the gym's still there.
Yeah.
That's apartments now.
I need to look at that. I don't really study a lot of that stuff, though. I just do like, because I do so many different locations, so I just basically know specific for the location, history, and then that's it.
And then they do stuff. They have like armory and stuff there too.
Yeah, you could totally get lost in there. Freaking neat, but I can see how you get lost because you got all the turns and stuff. Like you'd have to like memorize where you're going.
This was the kitchen. The original kitchen would have been outside, but eventually they moved it in here. So this is the stuff that they actually found in here. Just some of the old cooking stuff and whatever that they found in here. The warden's wife would have done all the cooking for the inmates, and she would have got paid per meal. So she actually had a pretty good job for that time period. So it really wasn't just the jailer running things by himself, but you know, his wife would help. I'm sure his kids would help. It was kind of a whole family.
So do you think like the liquor was like inmates, or do you think these were like guards who like kind of just?
Probably more inmates than it would be guards, would be my guess.
Because I could just imagine, like, if you're a guard and you're here at night, you're like, well, F these people, and you gotta sit here all night, and you just...
I read somewhere that one of the meals would include, like, some vodka, too.
Really?
So, yeah. And I can't remember where I read that, but it was, like, a typical meal, and then it included vodka, and I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. You know, but who knows? Maybe it was like, well, it'll help keep them warmer at night, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, what was the heating situation like in there? Or...
Well, they just had the coals that would go in behind the little doors.
So, like, if it was a real bad winter and they didn't have enough coals, you could end up
No hot water.
getting cold? No, for real?
It would be, I mean, it'd be harder to keep it warm, for sure. It's hard to keep it warm now with modern heating. So.
I mean, then they got the little...
And everything's metal.
What, is that like, like silverware from here, or like just...
I actually don't know if the silverware is from here.
Just the time I ever Joe.
Yeah, I mean, because it does look the part, like, definitely. Like, that's silverware.
I'm sure it is, because, I mean, they get a lot of stuff donated, and, you know, there's always people bringing stuff in and things, so. But they keep it pretty much time period, and they try to keep it, you know, as close to how it would have been as possible. Well, that's basically it. That's the whole deal. But you can book, if you're interested, you can book overnights where you can come in. They have 4 hour, 8 hour, and 4, 6, and 8 hour investigations where you can book it for yourself and just have the whole place to yourself, basically, and do paranormal investigating.
I think I'm gonna bring my daughter back tomorrow night.
Definitely you should. You definitely should. How old is she?
8.
8.
It didn't seem too spooky.
It's not really. They actually used to do a lot more with a lot more like people and stuff and whatever before COVID. But since COVID, they've had
I
to
remember
toned
when I
down
was
quite a bit.
like 7 or 8, they used to have a haunted house in here, and all the cops would be dressed up. And
Yeah, see, that's awesome. I miss having the big old nights when there's all these people here and, all the people who volunteer would come. And it's just like a big party and Halloween event for all of us. And I can't wait to get back to that. I really do miss it. So.
you ready?
Yeah, are we going?
Yeah.
Pretty
Well,
cool.
Thank you guys. Have
Yeah.
a good night. Evan, I hope you can make it back tomorrow night with your daughter. So.
I'll make it. I've been wanting to take her to something like this, but there hasn't.
Halloween time.